You are listening to a programme from BBC Radio 4.
The Reverend Dr. Giles Fraser, priest in charge of St Mary Newington. Good morning.
Morning, Justin. If, like me, you're going to miss the BBC's adaptation of War and Peace on a Sunday night, here's another adaptation of a much shorter Tolstoy story, perhaps worth pondering for the beginning of Lent, which starts on Wednesday. It's called The Three Questions. There was once a king who asked his advisers a number of questions. What's the right time to start things? Who are the right people to listen to? What's the most important thing to do? His priests spoke of religion, his doctors of health, and his soldiers of war. But dissatisfied with these answers, the king travelled deep into the woods to find a wise hermit who only spoke with people, who only spoke with simple people. Leaving his bodyguard a distance away, the king put on peasant clothes and approached the frail hermit who was breathlessly digging a hole. But the hermit didn't answer the king. He just spat on his hands and kept on digging. All of a sudden, a strange man ran out of the forest and collapsed in front of the king, with blood pouring from his side. The king and the hermit carried the man into the house, washed and bandaged his wounds, and then they all fell asleep. When the king woke up in the morning, the strange man was staring into his eyes. "Do I know you?" the king asked, feeling uncomfortable. "I came here to kill you," the strange man said. "I came here to take revenge on all the ways you've wronged me. And as I approached this cottage, your bodyguard recognised me and stabbed me. I'd have bled to death had you not saved me. So now I'm in your debt. I beg you to forgive me." The king was pleased he'd made peace with his enemy, but was still wanting an answer to his questions, so he returned to the hermit and demanded a reply. Looking up from his spade, the hermit sighed. "You don't get it, do you?" he said to the king. "You already have your answer." OK, it's not War and Peace, but it's a very Lenten story and typical of the late Tolstoy. For the Lenten journey, a journey of self-discovery, begins with us stripping us down of our finery. It's a journey in which enemies are reconciled and peace is established. Tolstoy was no fan of the Russian church or their establishment answers. Indeed, he was excommunicated in 1901. But increasingly in his old age, he found wisdom in the folk teaching of the poor, just as the restless Count Bezukov did in last night's episode of War and Peace. For Tolstoy, Christianity was best understood as the simple preaching of non-violence and forgiveness, the Sermon on the Mount, love God and love your neighbour. And it was this teaching that so influenced the likes of Gandhi, with whom Tolstoy regularly corresponded. The answers to the king's questions weren't clever or difficult. He didn't need reports or special advisers. All he needed was the courage to care for the threatening stranger and to recognise him as a friend, as not as an enemy.
That was Thought for the Day with the Reverend Dr. Giles Fraser.